Good morning, students. Welcome to this e-class of BNT Government Arts College, Chimanpura. I'm Dr. Ekta Goswami, and in this class of BA Part First, Paper First, we would take up for discussion the first poem prescribed in your syllabus, Shall I Compare Thee? In the earlier classes, we had discussed about sonnets and especially about Shakespearean sonnets. We had discussed that Shakespearean sonnets, they do not have a title. They are known by their numbers. So, and of course by their first line. So, Shall I Compare Thee is sonnet 18 in the sequence of Shakespearean sonnets. We had also discussed that Shakespeare had written a series of 154 sonnets. Love and courtship, they were the traditional subject of the sonnet. Shakespeare added the theme of friendship, and he established a new tradition in writing sonnets. Means they were not addressed to a lady, but they were addressed to a male friend. The sonnet form was transformed by Shakespeare, for besides writing 37 plays, 2 long poems, he wrote a series of 154 sonnets, each having 3 quatrains and a couplet. These sonnets, they have been addressed to a dark lady and to a fair youth, a friend and patron of the poet. Shall I Compare Thee is addressed to Shakespeare's friend. Shakespeare desires to admire the beauty of his friend and to immortalize it through the sonnet. The poet has great faith in himself and his poetic skill, and he hopes that the sonnet will stand the test of time. It will keep the memory of his friend living through generations. He knew that the sonnet has all the attributes that make it immortal. Therefore, the poet believes that so long as the sonnet lives, the praise of his friend will also live. The poet tells in the sonnet that he wants to compare his friend's beauty to the beauty of summer. But he thinks that he cannot compare his friend's beauty to a summer's day, because his friend's beauty is more temperate, more lovely than the summer's day. The poet thinks that all the beautiful objects of nature remain beautiful for a very short time, but his friend's beauty will live forever. So, he wants to immortalize his friend's beauty through another object which would be immortal, that is the poetry that he is composing. So, beauty and immortality through art, through these eternal lines, is represented in this poem. The ambition of the poem or the poet is to make the beauty of his friend everlasting. So, let us first read the poem. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease has too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as man can breathe or eye can see, So long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So let us discuss the poem. The text begins, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date." Now, we discussed it earlier that Shakespearean sonnets, they have 3 quatrains and a couplet. Quatrains means a set of 4 lines. So the first stanza or the first quatrain begins up with a rhetorical question. And what is this rhetorical question? He asks whether it would be proper to compare the beauty of his friend with the beauty of nature. And what kind of nature's beauty is he comparing? The summer's day. So this is usually to mean, that means I want to compare my friend's beauty. Shall I compare him to a summer's day? Means to all the beauteous thing in nature, they are hovering the poet's mind, and he recalls the beauty of the summer's day and just thinks whether he can compare his friend's beauty to the beauty of summer. And then what is the thought that arises in his mind? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Now, there is a doubt, there is a confusion that he cannot compare his friend's beauty to a summer's day because the youth's beauty, the friend's beauty is more perfect than the beauty of a summer's day. Means you are more lovely and more temperate. Temperate means gentle, more controlled, more gentle, whereas the summer's day, it is violent. It can have more heat, it can have more excesses, which is not tolerable. So he is saying, that means the poet is saying that I cannot compare my friend's beauty to a summer's day because my friend's beauty is more lovely, it's more exact, it's more temperate, it's more gentle than the summer's day. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. And in the following lines, the poet says that why he cannot compare his friend's beauty to a summer's day, because during summer, rough winds, they blow. And when the rough winds blow, they shake the darling buds of May. Means all the buds, all the blossoms that are there during the May. Now, May was a summer month in Shakespeare's time because the calendar in use lagged behind the true calendar by at least a fortnight. So, darling buds of May means the beautiful, the blossoms, the buds that are there during the summertime. All the favorite flowers, all the beautiful flowers. So, they are all shaken by the rough winds during summer. And summer's lease hath all too short a date. And then again he expresses his confusion that why I cannot compare the beauty of the summer with the friend's beauty, because the summer holds a lease. Means this is a legal terminology that the poet has used, that the lease is too short and it has an early termination. It is given for a very short time. So, because the beauty of the summer remains for a very short date, for a very short time, and rough winds, they blow during the summer time, therefore, he cannot compare the beauty of his friend, which is eternal, which is permanent, which is gentle, which is lovely, cannot be compared to a summer's day. The poet further says that sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. So sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines. What is the eye of heaven? The sun. And sometimes means on occasion. So many a times what happens is that too hot, the sun or the temperature during summertime, it's quite hot and often is this gold complexion dimmed. Means sometimes it happens that the golden glow of the sun is dimmed by clouds during some of the days, and when the eye of heaven shines to an extreme or when the gold complexion is dimmed, it does not appear to be beautiful. So he cannot compare his friend's beauty to a summer's day, and neither to a summer's day nor to any of the beautiful objects of nature. Why? Because every fair from fair sometime declines. Because all beautiful things, fair is for beautiful things. So all beautiful things, they decline, means they lose their beauty. From fair means they part from their beauty. And when do the beautiful things, they lose their beauty, they appear to be inferior in their complexion, in their beauty, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. Means by chance, by accidents, by fluctuations which are not in the control of these objects. So nature's changing course is untrimmed, means because of the changing time, nature changes its course, and when nature changes its course, because of the lapse of time, because of the passage of time, so at that particular time, when the time passes, because of the changing course of nature, every fair object, it loses its beauty. It does not appear to be as beautiful as it was before. So the poet says that all the beautiful objects in nature, they lose their beauty by nature, by accident, by chance, but the beauty of his friend is eternal, it is permanent. Therefore, he cannot compare his friend's beauty to any of the objects of nature. So in the third quatrain, the poet says, "But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee." So, but thy eternal summer shall not fade. The poet says that the beauty of his friend is eternal. It is not short-lived like a summer's day, it is permanent. And the poet is trying to make the beauty of his friend permanent so that the poet's friend does not lose the fair, the beauty, the loveliness that he owns, that he is in possession of. And how the poet is going to do that? Through his composition, through his poem. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. And the poet is saying that even death would not be able to brag, would not be able to to speak in high terms of erasing the memory or taking away the beauty of his friend. Means the friend's beauty would be permanent. And how would his friend's beauty be permanent? When in eternal lines to time thou growest. Means through the passage of time, the lines would be eternal, they would be permanent, and through these lines, through his poem, the poet is going to immortalize the beauty of his friend. And this beauty would be permanent so long as man can breathe or eyes can see. For as long as humans live and breathe upon the earth, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. The poet, he says that the verse, the poem, the lines that he is composing for his friend will live, they would celebrate the beauty of his friend, and continually they would be renewing the life of the poet's friend. So, the youth's beauty, his friend's beauty, will last longer than a summer's day, and it would last till the end of the world. So, the poet, he has a strong belief in the power of poetry, in the power of art, that alone has the power to immortalize someone. So the poet says that through these lines, he has a desire to immortalize his friend's beauty. The ambition of the poet is to make the beauty of his friend everlasting. The poem begins with a rhetorical question. The poet asks whether it would be proper to compare the beauty of his friend with the beauty of nature, and especially during summertime. Summers are very attractive in England as there are flowers, fragrance, and songs of birds. But the poet says that the beauty of his friend surpasses that of nature. Why? Because summers, they are short lived, but the beauty of his friend is everlasting. Shakespeare does not allude to the physical personality of his friend, but to his spiritual and internal beauty. His beauty excels the beauty of nature in summer. Sometimes torrid storms blow in summer, they destroy the birds, destroy the flowers, and at other times the sky is clouded. So the golden glow of summer, it is dimmed. So there's no brightness of the sun, but the poet believes that his friend's beauty is temperate, it is permanent. The poet believes that all beautiful things on this earth, they degenerate, they die. Beauty of nature and of everything else disappears with the passage of time because of chance. But the permanent beauty of his friend cannot decline. The poet believes that his friend's beauty would always be possessed by him, and even death cannot boast that it has destroyed his friend's beauty, because his friend, he has been identified or he has been immortalized by Shakespeare through this poem. So long as there are men on this earth, they will read this poem, which will reveal the beauty of his friend. In this way, through art, through the power of the poem, Shakespeare has immortalized the beauty of his friend. The poem, it is written in a very musical language. The poet has used very touching and expressive adjectives and phrases. The poem is pictorial. The buds of May are darling. The sun is the eye of heaven. It has gold complexion. The poet uses compact phrases. He says that every fair sometime declines by chance or nature's changing course. Nature is governed by time. Death has been personified, and it has been compared with an enemy of beauty. But even death, which is so powerful, does not have power to kill the beauty of poet's friend. Shakespeare displays great confidence in his art. He is not very modest. The sonnet is famous because the emotions which are expressed by the poet, they are sincere. He has an undying love for the fair youth, for his friend, and he desires that his friend's beauty or the celebration of the beauty of his friend should belong to all ages. And He thinks that art alone has the power to immortalize someone. And through the power of his poetry, Shakespeare wants to immortalize the beauty of his friend. There are three quatrains and a couplet, which I am repeating again and again. The rhyme scheme of the poem is A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. Just to remind you again that the sonnet form, it was transformed by Shakespeare. He has written a series of 154 sonnets, of which 28 sonnets they are addressed to a dark lady, and the rest of the sonnets they are addressed to his friend. Sonnet 18 is a sonnet which is addressed to Shakespeare's friend, and when you will read other sonnets of Shakespeare in a series, they all celebrate the beauty, the qualities, and the goodness of his friend all through his sonnets. So there was a new tradition that actually began with Shakespeare when he was not writing sonnets for any female or the beauty of any woman, but in his sonnet he was celebrating a male friend and his beauty. So the poet believes that art cannot be destroyed, or the power of poems cannot be destroyed by death, time, and situations.